All right, so my name is Manny, GM of Advertising at Genius Sports, and essentially we're here to talk to you about creating winning strategies to reach the modern fan. So essentially want to introduce Simon here.
How are we doing?
With Realtime Agency. So Simon, tell us a little bit about Realtime Agency and...
Thank you, Manny. And thanks everybody in the audience. Hope you're all having a good session today. I hope everything's going well. We're really excited to talk to you today. I'm actually from Realtime Agency. We're a full funnel digital marketing agency, and we buy media across various different channels, such as search, social, and programmatic, of course. But everything we do is underpinned by data, and every decision we take is underpinned by data. But doing that in a world that's now changing, and the rules of engagement are changing as the laws around privacy are shifting. We think about that quite a lot, and we think about how best to serve the clients that we work with. And just by context, we work with some really large brands such as Sonos and Breitling and GoPuff. And our role as an agency is to make the best decisions for them and their media dollars that they entrust in us. And we're always looking for innovative ways to serve and buy that media in the most effective way.
Oh, great. So let me tell you a little bit about Genius Sports. Genius Sports has been in business for 20 plus years, work with 400 leagues globally, work with the NFL, work with the Premier League, official data distributor for the Premier League, and we basically have cameras in every stadium. And we also essentially have fan engagement tools to help publishers engage with fans. And so I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about reaching that modern fan. So we're going to show you a little video here to show you some of the new formats that what we're working on at Genius Sports to engage the fan. So take a look at that. So you can see some of the interactivity there within the game. So this is basically engaging the fan in the moments that matter here. So what you're seeing here is computer vision and optical tracking to allow us to display the brand next to that moment that mattered. Okay, so now that you can see some of the new formats that exist in sports and how we're going to reach the fan, we want to talk a little bit about convergence of linear to digital, right? So essentially in linear, you were looking at stats to figure out where you were going to display your advertising just based on who's watching a particular program, right? And so when you're going from linear to digital brings this format that allows you to have more targeting, more addressability, more measurement, and it's bringing the real-time engagement around that with regard to marketers reaching the fan. So at Realtime Agency, Simon, what do you guys? I mean, what is your approach when it comes from that when it comes to that transition from linear to digital?
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation with brands that are still investing in linear. I find it remarkable given that the switch from linear to digital is so vast. And I think if some of you in the audience think about your own TV watching habits, and when you turn the TV on, what's your first go-to channel? I suspect it's a Netflix, it's a YouTube, it's a potentially an ITVX, but it's more and more rare to become the linear channels. So when we talk to clients about activating programmatic, and in this case, connected TV, we actually find there's a bit of an education process that actually needs to happen, which gladly, luckily they listen to us because, those brands that do lean into buying programmatic TV are kind of getting two things. One, you're getting the attention of people that are more likely to engage with your brand, and guess what? It's cheaper. Believe it or not, linear TV is still expensive, which is remarkable given the drop in attention on that.
Got it. Well, look, now that we've kind of set the stage and we talked a little bit about, or we saw some of the video around the new formats that Genius Sports is opening up, and we're talking about some of the transition from linear to digital and how statistically you would approach a linear buy versus a digital buy. In a digital buy, we're saying it's more addressable, it's more affordable, but also being able to reach the fan with a lot more metrics in reporting and measurement. There's been a whole, let's talk about privacy and data for a second. So, like GDPR, privacy is set in. It's changed the way that we've actually are collecting data. There's a lot more consent platforms, and essentially, that also changes the strategy and how you're going to use your data and activate that data across, buying a digital buy, reaching the fan. Came with the privacy and compliance were different ways to activate data, right? Some of those ways were either you're working with a publisher that is creating a curated marketplace, or you're actually working with a provider that has an identity graph, or you're potentially looking at data clean rooms to get that data in a privacy first way. At the Realtime agency, can you talk a little bit about how you're activating data in some of the areas where it's privacy first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think as an agency, the one thing we try to do is lean into trends and changes rather than be afraid of them. The privacy change, so GDPR was a catalyst for all the things that we see now, and the eventual deprecation of the cookie is potentially going to happen. We can have a vote as to whether it will or won't in the group maybe a bit later on. But the rules change, right? And so the way in which we can legally now focus our attention on consumers has changed. And actually what that did is it spawned a whole new industry, a whole new cohort of business, or a group of businesses that are designing privacy-first solutions to targeting consumers, much like Genius Sports and many others, whereby they have an ecosystem that is still allowing brands and advertisers to target fans with ads that are meaningful to them. So we, again, the privacy age, we kind of coin what we're in now is the privacy age. And being able to navigate that with privacy-first solutions is important. I would say a couple of things that we think about primarily is number one, with our clients' interests at heart, how do we measure success? How do we make sure that the media we're buying, whether it be through social search, programmatic, is it having an effect? So measurement is absolutely key to everything that we do. And working with providers that we can get the feedback in terms of the performance allows us to put that data into the models, and we can then create reports that are showing our clients actually what is working and what is not working. And again, that's another feather in the cap for things like connected TV and another nail in the coffin for things like linear.
Got it. Well, diving a little bit into being more specific about what we mean by identity graph or data clean rooms, or curated marketplace. Just talking about identity graphs for a second, generally when you go work at buying platforms, they have identity graphs that are cross-device. And then later on, the next evolution of those identity graphs were cross-platform, right? And now we're talking about reaching modern ways to reach a fan, right, a sports fan. So going back and to the initial context of what we're talking about here, we're talking about fans going from linear to digital, right? So in that case, when you're looking at identity graphs of the future, like for instance at Genius Sports, if you think about an identity graph and the fan is the center of a target, the first ring of that target would be cross-device, right? We want to be able to reach the fan on any device, right? Because it's important for the brand to have, depending on where you're working on in the funnel. If you're top of the funnel, you want to be in the brand awareness, right? And so having cross-device is important, because if I'm actually looking at my mobile device and then I go over and watch a game on my connected TV, and then I may switch over to the living room and watch it on my iPad, it's really important that you continue to follow that fan within the devices that they're engaging with on the program. And then the second ring of that target would probably be cross-platform. So if you're working more with a marketing agency, they'll probably have cross-platform in the sense that they want to be able to reach the fan on TikTok, or they want to reach him on X, or they want to reach him on Meta or Instagram. At Genius Sports, we're taking a third ring and putting it into that identity profile where we are highly engaged with sports globally in a sense that we want to know the seasonality, right? We want to know what team or what league you're engaging with at the right time. It's incredibly important, right? Like, we know you love the Spurs, right? So that's important. So when we talk about identity graphs and activating data, it becomes really important, not just on the buy side, but on the publisher side. At Realtime Agency, can you tell us a little bit about some of that and maybe how you're activating some of those strategies to engage with the modern fan?
Yeah, and I think what you're alluding to there, right, is consistency across device and cross-channel, but also serving meaningful ads. So as a Spurs fan, go Spurs. Any Spurs fans in the building?
Yeah, yes. Here we are.
Yes, Chris. That's what I'm talking about. As a Spurs fan, so we talked about this earlier on, right? So as a consumer who happens to be a Tottenham fan, if I'm watching a game, how cool would it be if I'm watching a game and Jude Bellingham or Maddison, who should probably be in the England squad as well, suddenly scores a worldie, and that goal goes in, and above that, there's an advert for my favourite watch brand that happens to be Breitling. And then I turn back to my phone because everybody uses multi-devices when watching any sports. And I turn to my phone and I'm, scrolling through whatever, and I'm now getting served another ad that again is around Breitling and a particular model of Breitling that I may like. Having that consistency across device, but it being able to serve an ad that's meaningful to that consumer is kind of like where we need to be with this stuff. Because without that, people just switch off. It's pointless. So. I think the context of why I'm being served that advert is important.
Yeah, so that's pretty interesting, right? Because you're bringing up, being able to serve, give brand awareness around things that aren't necessarily around sports like the watch, right? So it's important, like, to reach the modern fan. It's important to know what teams and leagues that they're interested in, but it's also important to know the interest, that particular fan has, right? They may love, a watch in this case, right? So, like, it would be thinking through that a little bit further. It's really important to have and work with solutions, identity graph solutions, that not only know everything about the individual with regard to sports, but to also know their general interests, right? And that's incredibly important as if you're a marketer, having the right media mix, trying to find the fan in the right, context matters, right? So kind of touching on, the data and the identity graph and why it's so important. We talked about, some of the creative aspects of it. When it comes to personalization, what does Realtime Agency use with regard to data from a personalization perspective?
I mean, we always think creative first when it comes to audiences and building creative, either using generative AI, either programmatically, whatever. But we have to make sure that we're building creative that is going to talk and resonate with the audience that it's being served to. So I think creative is the number one variable to success as it relates to media buying. I don't know if we've got. I mean, we could probably go on about creative for another 20 minutes outside of this particular talk. But I mean, we take it very seriously. I think if you get the creative element wrong, then the rest of the campaign really can just fall over.
Yeah.
So being able to build creative on the fly using programmatic text and being able to serve that in real time as things are happening, as memorable moments are happening. That really is the kind of where we want to be in terms of meaningful advertising that works.
Great. So at Genius Sports we have what we call dynamic creative optimization. So because we work with 400 leagues, we know every event that's happening. We basically provide this ability to use what we call macros to get a lot of the real-time activity that's happening within the game. At Realtime Agency, basically you're saying you've done a lot of work around personalization. You know how important it is around attention. You know that's going to drive the measurement and KPIs that you're looking for. And now when it comes to some of the sports-based macros and interactivity, how do you feel about some of the importance of, like, real-time scores and things that are going on within the game. Like all of a sudden, that is incredibly impactful to the fan, right?
It is impactful, but it's also fun. Like suddenly, advertising can become fun, right? Suddenly, we're engaging with our team, and like one of my favorite watch brands pops up above the headline. We can now have some fun with advertising. I think that gets lost a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that was that is. A real plus point to this, and I think this is maybe the first time that a lot of you have seen the tech. But I remember when I first saw the demonstration, very similar to what Manny has just shown there. I was kind of blown away. I was like, "Wow, I'm watching like real life FIFA here." and the speed and the velocity and the accuracy of the shot and all the data that sits behind it. All this stuff is fun. Like true sports fans are real data geeks. They probably don't even know that they're data geeks, but they're data geeks. They love it. And so being able to kind of wrap all of these fun data points and metrics, surface them in a way that we can then wrap advertising around, like why not, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so it turns out that data matters, right? I mean, how would you actually feel if basically we served you a jersey from Arsenal, but you love the Spurs?
I mean, if I was served an Arsenal jersey from a Genius Sports ad,
that'd be bad.
It'd be bad, right?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't get my business, that's for sure.
Well, good thing it'll be the Spurs.
Yeah.
Well. So basically, what we're saying here, if we can tie it all together, essentially, it's really important to start. It's really important to actually tie all of these strategies together to reach the modern fan. So if we can go back through some of the things that we talked about, some of the new formats that are coming to fruition, right, that are highly engaging, non-disruptive, are going to be an incredible asset to basically invest in, right? And then you have data that really knows the sports fan, right? Essentially ensuring that you can reach them cross-device, you can reach them cross-platform, but you also know their favorite team and league. That's going to be incredibly important. And then essentially the creative, right? So embarking upon creative, ensuring that it's highly engaging, and you're going to reach the fan, and you're going to reach them on the right device, and you're actually going to target them with regard to their favorite team, and be able to have a large amount of data so that you can also understand their interests, right? So when you're reaching the modern fan, it's going to be incredibly important to tie all of those strategies together and work with like a real-time agency to go ahead and activate that data and reach them across the web, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it fits into the full funnel, the entire strategy. And what's nice about particularly where programmatic is going, those ad buys were typically considered brand building, top of funnel. But now, as it gets more advanced and it starts to evolve and become more advanced and understand where it's affecting the consumers' purchases, the consumers' purchasing decisions throughout that funnel, and we've got the data to prove it. Suddenly, it's not just a top of funnel brand awareness piece. It now starts to become lower down the funnel, and even down to the direct response. Depending on how the ad buy is set up, if you're able to click into that ad. And be redirected to a landing page and hit a buy now, or check out. That's essentially where this is all going. So it's it's definitely important as it relates to the marketing mix and the marketing funnel itself.
Well, I think we're about out of time here, but what I'd like to say is, what did you think about the England game and the bicycle kick?
We got through that one.
Yeah. So imagine. So I'll end with this, but imagine having that bicycle kick happen and aligning your brand to that moment that mattered. Yeah. It's incredibly powerful. So with that, we'll say reaching the modern fan is going to be able to use, basically creative data and essentially the right formats to reach that modern fan. And now that we're at the point where technology is incredibly advanced, we're going to be able to do that at scale. So, with that said, thank you, Simon, for joining me and on stage to talk about reaching the modern fan, and we're incredibly excited to
not at all.
Share
thank
that
you,
with
Manny,
you.
and thank you for your attention today. I hope you've taken some useful nuggets away, and thanks again. Have a good rest of the day. Enjoy MadFest.
Brilliant. Thank you.